Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Manchester United versus Tottenham preview. Now I don't know whether this is just because we haven't actually had a game for so long or because it's such an enormous game, but I'm really excited about this one. Manchester United against Tottenham on Sunday afternoon. The ramifications are huge. Look at the league table. Look at what it says. It doesn't say Manchester United are in the top four. It says Spurs are 1 point off Arsenal, 1 point off fourth place, 39 points. United down in 8th with 31. Even if we beat Spurs, we're still 5 points off them in a very competitive league. That is why it is so important we win this game. Now, I'll show you what my predicted lineup's going to be in a minute. But did you know some very interesting stats? Manchester United at the moment currently sit, I wrote this on Twitter actually earlier, so I'll tell you for a fact. Man United are 15th in the league for home goals scored in the Premier League at the moment. 15th. We've got 13 goals scored at Old Trafford, which puts us 15th in the Premier League for goals scored at home. 13 goals for Man United at Old Trafford this season. Villa have got 29 at Villa Park. What's going on? Absolutely incredible. And our home form's not that great either. Our home form would actually put us not 8th, but 11th. We would be at 11th based on our home form, whereas Spurs would be 3rd based on their away form. So we are facing, statistically, in relation to the league table, a very difficult game, but also statistically in relation to goals scored and how we're performing at home and how they're performing away. We've not drawn a game at home this season. We've had 6 wins and we've had 4 draws. Spurs have had 5 wins, 4 draws, and only 1 loss away from home. So Spurs are a very, very decent away side. In fact, we've scored 13 home goals this season. They've scored 22 away goals. So, I mean, that's just amazing. Spurs have nearly scored double the amount of goals away than we've scored at home. We've both conceded 16. So, look, I do think all that's going to go out the window, though. There's a lot to discuss in this game, but I do think all that goes out the window because when you look at this, this is my predicted lineup, but I think that the enormity of the game is so big. We have to win. There is no room for error now. Like, we've already lost a lot of games this season. Ten Hag cannot hide behind Ineos coming in and go, it's a fresh start. Every loss now, between now and the end of the season, just adds to too many losses. So he can't afford to be losing games. We can't afford to be drawing games because we're trying to catch up. We've only got the FA Cup and the Premier League to play for. So, and we're not playing for the title, of course. We're playing for 4th. But Spurs themselves will feel that they are playing for the title. Now, they're massively weakened by the fact that they don't have Son. He's playing in the Asia Cup. They don't have Bissouma and Sarr. They're playing in the AFCON. And those 3 players, with the absence of James Maddison, they are 4 massive players for Spurs. So you've got to be putting that into account. Spurs have had a very good season, and we'll talk about clash of styles of football and how that could play into our hands, because I think we'll win, and I'll explain why in a moment. But we can't pretend that this is Spurs. It's not. It's not the strongest Spurs side, and they're playing at Old Trafford, so it's a big challenge for them, and it's one that we have to be up for. Now, they will be introducing Timo Werner. This was a player that we thought was going to come to Man United in January. How poetic would it be that he scores a goal? But look, he didn't come to Man United. We never got that far, so we can't be going, oh, if Werner scores against us, it'll be typical. It's not like he's played for us. He played for Chelsea, and we didn't get that deal done at the end of the day. So, yeah, Werner will play. I would imagine Werner will maybe not start, actually. I would imagine it will be Johnson, Kulusevski and Richarlison, but they have got Werner as an option. So their front three is probably, well, it is factually better than ours, even without Son this season. Into the midfield, this is where we've got to win. I know Eriksen and Maguire and Luke Shaw are meant to be back for this game. I would resist playing Scott McTominay, obviously, but I think Eriksen, Mainu and Bruno, we want to get control of that midfield. And if you play McTominay, forget what you think about McTominay for a moment. If you play McTominay, he wanders forward with Bruno and Mainu will get overrun. So at least Eriksen has got the maturity and intelligence to help Mainu out in a midfield battle that I don't know what the construction of Spurs midfield will be. With no Sarr, no Bissouma, I've heard that Bentancourt might be back, although I thought he was out for a lot longer than that. Obviously, I think they've got Højbjerg. Lo Celso. I don't know how they'll construct that midfield, but we need to get hold of it because it's not Spurs' strongest midfield. And then defensively, they've brought this Dragusin from Genoa, the Romanian centre-back. I think Romero's injured, but Van der Ven's probably going to be back. So Vicario in goal. They're still going to be a good team, Spurs. And I think the way to win this game is to try and overpower them in the midfield. And the only way we're going to do that is by trying to construct the best midfield we can. Looking at my United lineup, though, look, Onana's in goal. We expected him to be at the AFCON. We thought this might be Bienda's game. Look, I'm not going to argue about that now. It's rather weird how this is all panned out. You know, you're either at the AFCON like Basuma and Sarr and Amrabat, or you're not. But to have miss one game and then go, I think we're the only club doing this. It's weird. But look, anyway, Onana in goal. We don't know what Bienda's like, so Onana in goal, I would say, is makes us stronger in that area because we don't know what Bienda's like. I would go Varane and Evans. I know Maguire's back, and the temptation is maybe to go Varane and Maguire, but Johnny Evans hasn't put a foot wrong. I think it would be harsh to drop Johnny Evans for this game. So, look, you could put Maguire in there. It's a good shout, but I think that, you would probably go with Evans. Luke Shaw, if he's fit, definitely put him at left back. Put Dalot at right back so we can get forward. I've got nothing against Wan-Bissaka, but Dalot scored again in the cup game, and he definitely gets forward. He knows how to do that inverted midfield thing. The amount of times you see Dalot next to Mainu because he's tucking in, which is what Ten Hag wants. And Luke Shaw knows how to do that. And we're at home and we need to win. So I think our fullbacks are really important going forward. So, and we want to get hold of that midfield as well. So I'd go Dalot and Shaw, Mainu, Eriksen and Bruno, as I said. And then the front three does pick itself. And we can talk about missed chances and we can talk about, Rashford disappointing against Wigan. But what's your alternative? Like, Palistri's going on loan. Sancho's gone and hasn't been part of the club for 3 months. Anthony may not even be fit. I mean, realistically, I still think I'd go Rashford off the left, Garnacho off the right, and Højlund. Garnacho played well against Wigan. Højlund, I think, maybe should have scored a couple of goals against Wigan, but is still our best option up front. He's not going to use Martial, is he? And then off the left-hand side, you really are choosing between Anthony or Rashford. And I think because of the type of game this is going to be, I'm going to make a really bold statement here. I think Marcus Rashford scores at least 1 goal against Spurs. I even have a feeling he might score 2. So clip that up because I might be on for one of the biggest predictions of 2024 here, considering Marcus Rashford has had a terrible season. But I fancy Rashford to score, and I'll tell you why. And look, Porro's playing really well for Spurs. You could put Porro in a team of the season so far. He's playing that well. But Spurs play a high line. And much the same as Aston Villa, who are top of the league, not top of the league, but they're doing very, very well. Aston Villa were 2-0 up at Old Trafford and lost 3-2 to us. And we've only scored 13 goals at home this season. So against Aston Villa, we basically scored 25% of our goals. And Aston Villa are one of the best teams in the league. And Aston Villa are a team that play a high line. And so do Spurs. And Manchester United, we are very, very bad at creating chances this season. We're very, very bad at scoring goals, and we're very, very bad at dealing with a low block. But what we love is a team that plays a high line, so we can dink balls over from Bruno for Marcus Rashford to sprint onto. And I think Spurs with Ange are very, very unlikely to change the way that they play, and that should play into our hands. You've got to look at play styles, and we might not have one, but what we are good at is transitionally quick on the counter against teams that give us space in behind their defence. Now, Vicario is very quick off his line. He's a very, very good sweeper keeper. We saw that against Chelsea. But this plays into Manchester United's hands. I'd fancy us to win this game anyway, because I think a lot of people will say, it's going to be tough for United, a bit like the Chelsea game before Christmas, and we won comfortably, really. But I think the play style suits Man United. And very rarely do we play a team where it suits us. But Spurs, Villa do play a style of football that suits our very limited range of football this season. And what we do like to do is hit that ball over the top for people to run onto. And look, Garnacho and Rasmus like running onto it as well. So I think that gives Manchester United enough opportunities at Old Trafford to, score some goals. And I fancy and Rashford's our quickest player, so I would start Rashford. I know he's been disappointing, but look. It's funny to me because a lot of people would say sell Rashford at the moment. I haven't said that. I know a lot of you haven't said that as well. There seems to be this look, Marcus Rashford's a very, very, very popular player. He is. How many millions of people follow him on social media? So he's going to have a very big fan club. So if you criticise Marcus Rashford, you've got to have thick skin because you're going to get targeted. And I've noticed that this week. I don't know what these people know about football. I don't know whether they're just reading Rashford's books or looking at his Instagram because they don't know anything about football because they're not actually listening. I'm not a disliker of Marcus Rashford. In fact, quite the contrary. I've been doing this for years and I've always said, from when he broke through to even now, Rashford's one of the players that I like at Manchester United, but he's nowhere near at the level he needs to be. But I still know what that level is. And in the right circumstances, I still think he can be an important player. Now, would I be confident about Rashford if we were playing away against somebody like Brentford? No, because I know what Brentford are going to do. They're going to sit in deep and they're going to counter on us. But when you're playing a team like Spurs, where you fully expect them to play that really high line, and you know that Rashford's got that pace to run into, I think this is really, the sort of game that you can predict Marcus Rashford's going to, have an impact on. So, yeah, I think it's a big game. But of course, I look at all this, and it's all before the press conference from Ten Hag, and the best laid plans go to waste, don't they? We don't know actually if Luke Shaw's back. We don't know actually if Eriksen's back. And what we also don't know is if somebody else is going to drop down with an illness or an injury. I mean, I forget who was ill. Was it Eriksen was ill for the last game? We've had an illness going through Manchester United. Well, some would say we've had an illness going through Man United for 10 years, but we've had a genuine bug or illness going through Manchester United for about 6 weeks now. So you just don't know who's going to get it next. Now, it's almost a case of marking off the players that have had it. Now, I remember Rashford was ill, Varane was ill, obviously Eriksen's been ill. I can't remember whether Mainoo's been ill, but look, we just don't know who might miss out on this game. We can't afford anyone to miss out on this game. We need to be putting that team out, in my opinion, to have a chance. And it will come down to whether Spurs play that line and whether Man United can exploit it. And many people would say, well, if Spurs know the only way we can hurt them is with a high line, why do they do it? But it's the same reason Emery did it. Like, for the 10 minutes before half-time, it was 2-0 to them, and we were getting at them. And at half-time, he didn't change it, because some managers believe in the way that they play and don't want to change it. And if you're training a team week after week to play a certain way and you're having success with it, you don't suddenly want to go and get them to do something they're not used to, like sit back and defend. So I don't for 1 minute think Spurs are going to not be aware, or Ange is not going to be aware of how we're going to hurt them. But I think what he will do is he will say, well, look, we're higher in the league. We've got a good record away from home. My players know what's expected of them. I'm not going to change it for one game because that shows fear. And I'm not scared. We'll go and express ourselves, and if we lose the game, then we lose the game, but we'll lose the game doing it the way we want to do it. And that's explanation for you, because it's a very good point, and I'm sure some of you will be thinking about it. If we're sat here now saying we're going to win the game because they play a high line and we like the ball in behind, why would they allow that to happen? But that's what you sort of want in a manager. You want a manager to go and implement the way they're going to play, and not, look at the opposition like West Ham and go, I'm going to play McTominay because he's tall and they're tall. We've been doing this for years. We've lost our identity at Manchester United. In fact, I like doing the previews because we always wander into areas, don't we? The last preview, I think it was the Forest game, we were talking about we don't take care of the ball, and we don't. But we also don't have an identity. We were doing it under Jose. We were doing it under Ollie. We look at the opposition and we adapt to how they play. Spurs will come to Old Trafford on Sunday fully aware that their high line is vulnerable, but they'll still play it because Ange will be, I've taught these players to play this way. I've been rough on these players to get them to play this way. I've shouted at these players to get them to play this way because I believe in it. If I tell them to play a different way, they've got every right to look at me and go, oh, he's not sure about his own style of play. It's about confidence, belief and ability. And I think Ange will go there with his team, play the same way, and if they get beat, he'll be disappointed, but he'll go, well, look, we're on a journey. I'm missing a lot of players. And next season, I'll be stronger and I will come to Old Trafford and I'll beat them the same way. And that's probably the same way Emery looked at it as well. These managers aren't going to change the way they're playing. They might change it with 20 minutes to go if they're 2-0 up, but they won't change it from minute one. So there will be those opportunities for Manchester United. But what we mustn't do is just think it's going to be Spurs giving the ball away and us hitting the ball over the top. We played very well against Spurs last season, if you remember, at home, but that wasn't Ange. Was Ten Hag. We pressed them high up the pitch. I think Fred was man of the match. But they're going to do that to us. They're going to press. They're going to play high. They're going to play high intensity. But I think the advantages there for Manchester United are that we need to win this game. So Jim Radcliffe will be in the crowd as well. They have got a lot of players out, and their play style does really suit us. What we hate at Old Trafford is when teams come to Old Trafford, sit in deep and counter us. We like teams that come and have a go. Which is why in the past we've had success against teams like Man City, etc. Not all the time, of course, but we like a team that comes and has a go and leaves that vast space in behind, especially in the second half when you're attacking the Stretford end. But look, I think Rashford will score. I think Manchester United will win. I wouldn't be so confident to say we'd get a clean sheet. I can see it. I can see goals in this game, you know, whether it's a 2-1 or a 3-2, something like that to Manchester United. And look, even if we do win, we're not back. Like, we've got really tough games to come in the league. I think our next league game is Wolves away, which I think's got a loss written all over it. So we've got to be very careful about, even if we do win, we're going to get top four. Because, you know, the optimism quite rightly will be, well, we're only 5 points or 6 points off Spurs now. You know, we're in the race for top four. We want to be in the race for top four. We've got to do something incredible in this second half of the season. We've got to go and win 6-7 games in a row just to put ourselves in that position. Remember, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in this position when he took over from Jose. We were right down the league. We were nowhere near top four. He basically won every game from December to March, got us into a top four race, got the contract, and then we just fell off a cliff. So we've got to put ourselves back in the race. And then we're in the race. We've got to stay in the race. Very, very difficult to do. It's difficult to go and win the 6-7 games to get you in the top four race. But then when you get there, you've got to go and win another 6 or 7 to be in the race. So I don't see it. But if it's going to happen, you've got to win games like this. You've got to then go to Wolves and win. You've got to beat West Ham at home. You know, you've got to go and win 3, 4, 5 games in a row and build momentum. We've got the players coming back. But this Spurs game, to me, is symbolic in the sense that if we get another loss or a draw, then, you know, it's more of the same, isn't it? And then that leads you to player mentality. Where are the players' heads at here? Are they really up for this fight? Are they really excited and motivated by potential change at the club? Or are they still the same old inconsistent, demotivated players that, you know, can turn it on and off when they like? So I think it's massively intriguing, but, you know, it's been such a negative season. I think we're due a little bit of positivity, and it might be a false dawn, of course. It might be a false dawn, but it would be very nice on Sunday night to be talking about, you know, an entertaining, high goal-scoring game at Old Trafford where we've won. And I do think it's got the components for that. I really, really do. Get your thoughts in. Have I missed anything? Do you agree that this suits the way we're going to play? Do you agree with the lineup there? Do you think Spurs are naive to come to Old Trafford and play that way? Or do you respect the way that they play and the way that Ange will approach it? They have got a lot of players out, but they have got a few players coming in. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter as well what players you've got. We've seen a lot of good players at Man United in an 11 get beat by a team on paper that's not better. And this will be interesting on Sunday as well. If those players know the system of Ange, they're better than 11 better players who don't know the system. And what I mean by that is Spurs have got an identifiable way of playing. If those players, they may not be as good as our players on paper, but if they know their job and their place in a system that works, they will beat our team every time because we don't have a system that works. We have better players on paper, but we don't have a system. And it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out on Sunday because the thing is, I think if Spurs were coming here with Son, Bissouma, Sarr, Romero, I'd be more worried because it's like, well, they know the system and they're good players. The thing that gives us a chance on Sunday is the system that Spurs play, that high line, but also they've got a lot of players out. Get your comments in below. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, we're back tomorrow. We've got Eric Ten Hag's press conference and the morning show as well. Absolute legends. Smash a like on the video. I am wearing my Martinez hoodie, by the way, but we don't expect him back for this game, or Casemiro, by the way. Thanks for watching. Take care.